The legend of the first Christmas Eve. Once upon a time, in a small village nestled among snowy hills, there lived a little boy named Hans. Hans was a kind and curious child who loved to hear stories from his grandmother, Oma Greta. Every night, Oma Greta would tell Hans a story before he went to sleep. On one special night, Oma Greta decided to tell Hans a very special story about the very first Christmas Eve. Long, long ago, in a faraway land, people had never heard of Christmas. The nights were cold and dark, and the days were short and gray. The people in the village felt sad and tired because winter was so long. They wished for something that would bring light and happiness into their lives. One winter night, as the villagers were preparing for bed, a bright star appeared in the sky. It was the most beautiful star anyone had ever seen. Its light was so bright that it turned the dark night into day. The villagers were amazed and gathered in the village square to look at the star. In the middle of the crowd stood a gentle old man named Klaus. Klaus was wise and kind, and everyone respected him. He looked up at the star and smiled. "This star is a sign," he said. "It is telling us that something wonderful is about to happen. We must follow it and see where it leads." The villagers were excited and agreed to follow the star. They packed their warmest clothes and some food for the journey. Hans, being the curious boy he was, asked Oma Greta if the children in the village went too. She nodded and said that even the smallest children, like Hans, were a part of the journey because it was a special night for everyone. As the villagers walked, the star guided them through the snowy hills and valleys. The light from the star made the snow sparkle like diamonds, and the villagers felt a warm glow in their hearts. After walking for a long time, they came to a small, quiet stable on the edge of the village. The star stopped right above the stable and shone even brighter. Inside the stable, the villagers found a young mother named Mary and her newborn baby, Jesus. Mary and Jesus were resting on a bed of soft hay. The villagers could feel the love and warmth in the air. Klaus knelt down beside the baby and whispered, "This child is very special. He will bring hope and joy to the world." The villagers gathered around Mary and Jesus, singing soft songs and giving them their gifts. They brought warm blankets, food, and even some toys for the baby. Hans asked Oma Greta if he could give a gift too. Oma Greta smiled and said that Hans's kindness and love were the best gifts he could give. As the night went on, the villagers felt a deep sense of peace and happiness. The star continued to shine brightly, and its light filled the stable with a golden glow. They knew that they were witnessing something magical and important. The next morning, as the sun began to rise, the star slowly faded away. But the villagers didn't feel sad because they knew that the light of the star would always stay in their hearts. They returned to their village, carrying the spirit of Christmas with them. Hans, with his wide eyes and big smile, asked Oma Greta, "What happened to the baby Jesus?" Oma Greta hugged Hans and told him that Jesus grew up to spread love, kindness, and joy to the world. "And that is why we celebrate Christmas," she said. "It reminds us to be kind, to love one another, and to share the light of happiness with everyone." As Hans drifted off to sleep that night, he felt a warm glow in his heart. He dreamed of the bright star, the peaceful stable, and the baby Jesus. He knew that Christmas was a time for love and kindness, and he wanted to share that with everyone he met. But there was more to the story that Oma Greta had to tell. Hans was so eager to hear what happened next, so he snuggled deeper into his blankets, ready for the continuation. On their way back to the village, the villagers couldn't stop talking about the wonderful night they had just experienced. They felt a new sense of joy and hope in their hearts. Even the cold winter air seemed warmer, and the snowflakes that fell from the sky sparkled like tiny stars. The villagers decided that they wanted to celebrate this special night every year. They wanted to remember the bright star, the journey to the stable, and the birth of baby Jesus. Klaus suggested that they gather in the village square every year on the same night and tell the story of the first Christmas Eve. When the villagers returned home, they spread the word about the miraculous night to everyone they met. Soon, the news of the bright star and the special baby spread to other villages, and people from all around came to hear the story. Each year, more and more people joined the villagers in the square to celebrate Christmas Eve. One year, a kind woman named Marta decided to add something special to the celebration. She loved to bake, and she made delicious cookies shaped like stars, angels, and animals. She brought the cookies to the village square and shared them with everyone. The children were especially delighted, and they loved the sweet treats. Marta's idea became a new tradition, and every year, families would bake special Christmas cookies to share with their friends and neighbors. They also began to decorate their homes with candles and lanterns to symbolize the light of the bright star that had guided them to the stable. Another villager, a talented musician named Jacob, brought his flute and played beautiful melodies during the celebration. His music filled the air with joy, and soon others joined in with their instruments. They sang songs of love and hope, just like they had on that first Christmas Eve. As the years went by, the celebration of Christmas Eve grew bigger and more joyful. People decorated a big tree in the village square with colorful ornaments and lights. They called it the Christmas tree, and it became the centerpiece of the celebration. The tree reminded everyone of the hope and joy they had felt on that special night. Hans listened to Oma Greta's story with wide eyes and a big smile. He loved hearing about how the villagers had come together to celebrate Christmas Eve. He imagined himself as part of the celebration, sharing cookies, singing songs, and decorating the Christmas tree. Oma Greta continued, the villagers also remembered to be kind and help those in need, just like they had helped Mary and baby Jesus. They would visit the homes of the elderly and the sick, bringing them food, warm blankets, and gifts. They made sure that no one felt lonely or sad during the Christmas season. Hans felt a warm glow in his heart. He wanted to be just like the villagers, spreading love and kindness wherever he went. He promised himself that he would always remember the story of the first Christmas Eve and the lessons it taught. The years passed, and Hans grew up. He never forgot the stories that Oma Greta had told him, especially the story of the first Christmas Eve. Every year, he took part in the village celebration, sharing cookies, singing songs, and helping those in need. He told the story to his own children, who listened with wide eyes and big smiles, just like he had. The village continued to celebrate Christmas Eve with joy and love. The tradition spread to other villages and towns, and soon, people all over the world were celebrating Christmas. They decorated their homes with lights, baked special cookies, and sang songs of love and hope. They remembered the bright star, the journey to the stable, and the birth of baby Jesus. And so, the story of the first Christmas Eve was passed down from generation to generation. Each year, people remembered the bright star, the journey to the stable, and the birth of baby Jesus. They celebrated with joy, giving gifts, and showing love to one another. The spirit of Christmas continued to shine, just like the bright star on that special night. As Hans grew older, he became known as the kindest and most generous person in the village. He always made sure that everyone had enough to eat and that no one felt lonely or sad. His heart was filled with the spirit of Christmas, and he spread joy wherever he went. One Christmas Eve, when Hans was very old, he sat by the fire with his grandchildren gathered around him. He told them the story of the first Christmas Eve, just as Oma Greta had told him. The children listened with wide eyes and big smiles, and they felt a warm glow in their hearts. Hans looked at his grandchildren and said, "Remember, my dear ones, Christmas is a time for love and kindness. It's a time to help those in need and to share the light of happiness with everyone. Just like the bright star guided the villagers to the stable, let love and kindness guide you in everything you do." The children nodded and promised to remember Hans's words. They hugged their grandfather and felt the warmth of his love. They knew that the spirit of Christmas would always be with them, just like the bright star that had shone on that first Christmas Eve. And so, the story of the first Christmas Eve lived on, bringing joy and hope to people all over the world. Each year, families gathered to celebrate Christmas, remembering the bright star, the journey to the stable, and the birth of baby Jesus. They decorated their homes with lights, baked special cookies, and sang songs of love and hope. They shared the spirit of Christmas with everyone they met, spreading love and kindness wherever they went. Christmas is a time for us to be kind and loving to each other. It teaches us to share what we have and to bring joy to others. When we help others and show kindness, we can make the world a happier place. Just like the villagers followed the star and found joy, we too can find happiness by being good and caring to everyone around us.